Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm back again with some more tips and tricks. But before we get into that, let's do our introductions. I'm Jarrett, and this is Shadow and Light. Okay, that was awkward, but yeah. So I wanted to talk today about like my go-to settings as far as like lighting situations for. I'm just gonna go ahead and say like what I do for a living. So weddings and boudoir. So let's start with weddings. When I walk into a wedding, let's say we're doing like the getting ready prep, and we're shooting in, let's say, a hotel space, and we have one window. Could be a big window, a little window. Anyways, the first thing I do is I adjust my my f-stop. So based on what I'm shooting and what I want to get, I might bring that to f 2.2, 2.8, 3.5, and then from there I'll go ahead and adjust my shutter speed. Actually, the ISO, I start that at about 100, and then I'll go ahead and adjust my shutter speed based on that. I won't go below 160, so we'll say 160 to 200 is roughly where I put my shutter speed at its lowest point, and if that's not letting in enough light, then I'll go ahead and bump up my ISO. So you kind of have to do an order, in my opinion. I kind of do things in order. So let's say we're doing the getting ready. I'm gonna be shooting that at 3.5 for the most part, and then I'll do 3.5. We have some nice ambient light from the window. We're probably gonna be shooting a pretty low ISO unless we're not next to the window. When we kind of move from space to space, we'll go ahead and change that accordingly. I like to pop a flash in the corner when the bride gets her dress on, just in case for some reason the lighting situation isn't great. I don't always use the flash, but it's there just in case I need it. So let's actually say the settings. F3.5, shutter speed like let's say 160, and ISO, I don't know, 300, something roughly there. And then you go ahead and you adjust based on those settings up and down. My rule of thumb is your shutter speed should not go below 160, and it can exceed truly anything. It really just depends on how much light you're trying to let in. Your f-stop at its most wide open spot, I think it's really hard to get a really sharp image. Personally, I know some people who can get some really sharp images like that, but I don't necessarily trust my camera or myself to get that super sharp image every time. So I'm not going to be shooting wide open too often unless it's something super close up and, you know, everything falls off. So if I'm trying to get some detail shots of like the eyelashes being done or the lipstick being put on, I'll do like an f1.4, 2.2. But for the most part, I'm shooting 2.8 to 3.5 for that. Yeah. And so during the ceremony, it's going to be roughly the same. I'm actually setting my shutter speed first because when we're doing processionals, I'm going to be like at shutter speed 200, 250. And then I'll set my f-stop to about 4. And then whatever my ISO has to be to get that lighting correct, that's what I'll do. Just because I want to make sure that all the motion is captured, and then they're going to be moving quickly down the aisle. I want to capture all that without missing the shot. And then I'll try to pop a flash just for the processionals and recessionals. 99% of the time, I'm not using flash during the actual ceremony. My ceremony lighting changes though. So we're not using flash. We're shooting a little bit more wide. We're shooting at like 2.8 to 3.5, and then our shutter speed is gonna go ahead and be probably roughly around the same, but I could drop that down to 160, and then just balance that ISO out. I also didn't talk about Kelvin at all. I'm shooting at like between like 4,000 to 6,000 Kelvin for pretty much everything. And it's not 4,000 even, it's like 4,000 and change, and then it's 6,000 and change. So 6,000 and change, I think it's like the number right after 6,000. Let's see here what we have. So Kelvin 6,250 is what I shoot with my flash, and then about 4,760 to 5,880 is what I'll shoot for everything else. So that's only 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 stops from each other. So I won't mess around with that too much. Just those, I want to get those whites white so everything looks right. For the family photos, we're gonna go ahead and shoot that at a deeper f-stop, 4.5 and up. I'm sometimes shooting at 5.6 for the most part. I'll put a light in the corner, just one side of the room. That light will pop. And if you don't have a powerful flash, you could use like 2 lights through one umbrella. I used to do that. You can do that, and basically you adjust based on all those settings. So your shutter speed should be about 200 or more, and then you can adjust your ISO accordingly. One thing I like to do that I don't see a lot of people doing is sometimes like the ceremony space, for one, ask them to turn off those overhead lights so you don't get those like weird like looking eyes. Excuse me. Turn those off, and then fill in with the flash. And then a lot of times your background is dark. What I do is I put a flash behind the couple facing at the background to light up the background, and that will separate them from the background, which is pretty nice. Okay, so after that, my go-to settings outside depends on how sunny it is. So you've heard of the term Sunny 16. So Sunny 16 is your shutter speed should be at 1600 or more. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pop that in there, drop that ISO down to 100 because it's bright outside. And then what would my f-stop be? My f-stop is gonna be 2.8 to 3.5. If we're doing group shots, 3.5. If we're doing solos, probably still 3.5, unless we're doing a little bit more artistic solos where they're not looking at the camera, and I can potentially ruin the shot a little bit. And by ruin the shot, I mean like we're not side by side anymore. Somebody's here and somebody's here, so like the bride's here and the groom's here, and I'm trying to get like the bride's face in focus, and we can shoot at like 2.8, and I'm not worried about it as much. And sometimes I'll drop it down even lower, really just depends on what I'm shooting. And I know a lot of people shoot more wide open, and that's cool too. I'm doing a really run and gun day, and I'm trying to get as much stuff done as I can in a short period of time. I think I'm just kind of really go with the flow as far as like the whole process goes, and sometimes that can be stressful, and in addition to being stressful, sometimes you just don't have time to shoot anything, so you just have to get as much done in a short period of time. Yeah, and so then we're on to the reception. My lighting for the reception is kind of wild. I'm not sure if anybody else does this, so my settings are Kelvin, 6250, so I can pop that flash on. I'm shooting at like f160 to 200, shutter speed 160 to 200 on average, and then depending on what I'm shooting, we're going to shoot between f2.8 to 4.5. So f2.8, I do first dances in f2.8, I shoot pretty much everything else in f3.5, and then I do speeches in 4.5, just so I'm not missing anything. The reason why I do speeches at 4.5 is because I'm using a longer lens, and that lens already has a good amount of compression, so I'd rather get a sharp image 100% of the time and have the fall off still be blurry anyways. Your background's going to be still bokeh, so I'm not too worried about it. And then for the ISO, that's going to be variable based on what your flash output is. I set my flash output to a 16th power, to between 16th and 8th power typically, and it depends if you're shooting on or off camera. There's so many other different options, but yeah, so that's basically it. So quick rundown on all of that stuff that I went over. You know, your outside shots and your inside shots are going to determine whether or not your f-stop. Okay, your f-stop's good. You determine that. The outside shouldn't be determining that for you. That's gonna be a stylistic choice. Your ISO and your shutter speed is what is determined by the amount of light you have. Obviously f-stop too, but like truly it's those two. So that being said, outside, bright day, ISO 100 to start. Inside, not so bright day, I'm gonna go ahead and start at maybe ISO 800. Outside, bright day, shutter speed is gonna be, 800, 1600, 2000 or more. Inside, dark, we're gonna go ahead and drop that down to about 160 shutter speed to 200 shutter speed. And then your f-stop, honestly, is gonna determine how much light comes in as well, but for me, it's less about light and more about a stylistic choice. So if you have to add light, I'd use your flash. If you have to subtract light, I would just bump up that shutter speed. And then there's going to be instances where you need to change things to make your f-stop bring in more light. But honestly, it's a balancing act between the three. That's why it's a triangle. Hopefully that rant was good enough to explain like go-to settings for me. I think it was, but at the same time, I think my brain's a little bit wild sometimes. But, boudoir. So my go-to boudoir settings are actually pretty easy. So in my studio, because it's kind of dark, we're shooting at shutter speed 160. We're shooting at f3.5 literally almost every time. Sometimes I'll go down to 2.8, but and then your ISO, I'm gonna go ahead and start that at 400. 500, and then I'll move it up accordingly based on how close I am to the window or how many lights I've turned on. That's pretty much it, but what I wanted to say is finally, I've been running around with the Yongnuo 560N, I think that's what it's called. Anyways, that's like a manual flash only, but it has the built-in radio triggers. They've been godsend this whole time. But I was like, I need to step on my flash game. So I bought this the Godox V1s, and I also bought the Godox 8200. I only bought one of each, but I obviously need more because, weddings. But this V1 has actually been cool. I haven't really gotten to use it much. What's really cool about it, in my opinion, is this modeling light that it has. So if you need to have some sort of modeling light, you can. So that's different. The round head is cool. It's got magnetic attachments to snap on different things. Before I was like velcroing things around it to bounce my flash. So now I have a flash cart, a thing, a grid, a snoot, a bunch of things, color gels, whatever. So that's cool. Has a radio trigger built in, ITTL, HSS, high speed sync. And then, the other one, obviously the 8200 is kind of big. It's like a big flash. So it's like this big. It's like, I would say almost double the size of this. It's about as thick as this, but it's a pretty big square. Looks like a giant flash that doesn't bend. What's cool about that, though, is the power is way more. I flashed it in my office at like full power, and I was blinded. I flashed it behind me, and it was blinding me from in front. Kind of wild, but it's been cool. I've only used it one time, and it was super cool that I didn't have to worry about whether the sun was in my way or not. I was like, I'm just gonna light you up how I feel like it. We do still keep the sun to our backs, but it wasn't bad. It was nice. It was a nice day. I was able to make everything work. It was pretty sunny. I think we were shooting at 11, and I was still able to get some killer shots. But yeah, I think you should get those. Godox, sponsor me, because I'm about to be singing the praises of these two flashes for quite a while here, and they're really freaking nice, and I don't know why it took so long to purchase them. But anyways, hopefully that was helpful for the go-to settings. Great rant. Oh, cool. Merch. I launched a while ago, but I haven't merched it out. I have a Becoming Fire. If you follow my boudoir page, I have Becoming Fire hats and Becoming Fire sweaters. Sweatshirts. What are they called when there's no hood? They look like this. All right. Anyways, but just across the chest, Becoming Fire. And then I think there's t-shirts, but I'm gonna get rid of the design and put new designs up. And obviously, when you order it, it's through a company, and then basically the price is set from that company, and then they ship it out to you or whatever. I get a small kickback, but truly it'd be cool if you guys purchase some, and if you do purchase some, you watch this video and you want to book a shoot, I'll give you a discount for purchasing the merch. But yeah, cool. All right. It was nice talking to you guys, and peace out.